Hey guys, and welcome to season 4 of the Yes People podcast. I'm your host, Savia Rocks, and in this season, we get to remember and reminisce back in time with some of our guests like...
Hey, we are Entity,
and you're listening to
the Us People podcast
with Savia Rocks.
Peace, my name is Oni. I'm a producer-engineer from Queens, New York.
Hi, my name is James Green. I'm a TV presenter, sports reporter and journalist.
Hi, this is Joy Langley and I'm the author of Navigating Stress.
Hey, this is Travis Glossop. I am a creative radio producer for Kiss FM and you're listening to the Us People podcast with Savia Rocks.
We highlight the strengths of our cultures, talking about diversity and inclusion and speaking out loud and proud about who we are.
I was never that good. I was determined. I had a love for the sport and that always fueled me.
At 49, I was seven years post-divorce after 22 years and 3 kids of a marriage. And so I knew that I needed to figure out what was happening for me and why was this such a severe sort of crack in my identity and how I showed up in the world.
It's great. I'm glad because I'll be honest, I didn't really work that hard at uni, so it was good to leave uni and really get on it, really because I also, as a person, I think I value productivity. A lot of people live to work. I think I am one of the work to live guys, but because my work is amazing, that's all right with me. So as a person, I go to bed happy when I've had a productive day.
We've also saved the best till last by honouring another artist and showcasing their talent as our new theme song with none other than your host, Savia Rocks, featuring in their song. So guys, enjoy, stay creative, and as always, please continue to be kind to one another. Let's go.
Hello, this is John Robb. You can hear me being interviewed on the Us People podcast by Savia Rocks.
Peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Yes People podcast. I'm your host, Savia Rocks, and today I've got John with me, who is a TV and radio presenter, musician, author, and public speaker. John, thank you so much for coming on the Yes People podcast. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you, Savia? Okay?
I like the way you said that. You sounded so calm when you just said that.
I am calm, yeah.
No, I like it. That's really cool. You don't hear many guests sound that calm when they just come into an interview.
I'm just glad I'm not outside because it's been raining for about 8 hours.
Is it raining where you are? Down here it stopped. It was raining earlier on, but it calmed down.
It's always annoying when they have London on the telly. I live in Manchester, and it's always a really hot, sunny day. You think, did they record that last week? Oh, that's today, is it? It's on 180 miles, and it's completely different weather.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, from the heat to the rain, considering we do need some rain.
Yeah.
What do you prefer, rain or heat?
I like the warm weather, but I mean, obviously I know we need rain, otherwise everything would die out,
Yeah, true.
But I like being in the sunshine. But actually, my favourite thing is being in the shade, looking at the sunshine. So it's warm. You don't have to wear too many clothes. You can just put just one top on, your trousers and your shoes, and that's it. You don't have to but up here, all the time you think it's a really hot sunny day, I better take a jacket and a hat because I bet it rains in a bit.
Yeah, no, that's true. I like the warm. I don't mind the sun. I'm always in the sun. I run in the sun or I run in the sea. It's one or the other. But
oh yeah, I like running.
Yeah, it's one or the other.
I actually prefer to run when it's colder and rainier because when it's really hot, it's really draining. So there actually has been about 4 or 5 really hot days this summer when it was just way too much to go running. When it's too hot or too cold. I remember in Berlin once, it was about -10 and I tried and I could feel my lungs kind of shrinking.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, that was quite testing. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Let's go on to talk about music, John. So I know that you're a big fan of music. I know before we even started the podcast, as soon as I came online, we was talking about music. So Tell me a little bit about your background, where you grew up, how music influenced you when you were younger to who you are today.
Well, the initial music I really liked was glam rock in the 70s, so like Mark Bolan, David Bowie, people like that. And I used to watch Top of the Pops like everyone in my generation did. Watch it every week. And, it's amazing, but it was like a fantasy world. I grew up in Blackpool, and this is a culture that seemed like a million miles away. It wasn't anything you could do yourself. I mean, nobody I knew would have a guitar. It was pointless, because you thought, well, it's either London or outer space that stuff goes on. It doesn't happen to people like us. And then punk came along, and a band called Buzzcocks put a single out called Spiral Scratch, and they made it themselves. And I remember somebody bringing it to school, and we thought, God, you can actually make your own record. It was amazing. It was so revolutionary. And we thought, well, let's have a band. Let's make our own record. That'd be the best thing ever, to make a record with one of your songs on it. And we never learned to play music properly. We just basically did it just by, we got secondhand guitars and got on stage, plugged in. We never plugged in amps before, and just started playing. And it was all out of tune, and we didn't know anything about scales or chords, but it didn't matter because it was all just about doing it, And we of course, we were completely awful in musical terms, but the spirit of punk was different. It was all about just get up there, do it, create, don't worry about it. And that was really empowering, and it empowered a lot of people from my generation who weren't necessarily the kind of people who go on stage. I mean, before punk, it was kind of very extrovert, larger life characters would be the kind of people who make music. But punk was just loads of like weirdos and misfits and the leftovers and really nervous kids who learned how to get on the stage and tap into that inner art, which everybody's got. They tapped into it and they found it, and it was mind blowing. It was a really great moment. And when people talk about punk and you get these documentaries about it, they always miss that bit out, And I mean, of course, I love all the big bands like the Pistols and the Clash and all that, but they were just extensions of big bands from before. They had managers, press agents, big labels, and that's not a critique of them because they made wonderful music and they stood for really great things. But one of the key things about punk was all the scruffy, weird kids in funny little towns that nobody even cared about somehow made art and culture, and some of it was had a massive impact on this country, and some of the most loved music was made by these kind of leftovers. And to this day, I've always been fascinated by those people. And to this day, they still out there making music. Like Fontaines and Idols are virtually equivalent to the people that like we were years ago. They were people cared passionately about art, music, and culture, but weren't the cool kids at school. But they still got up and did it anyway. And I think that's a really important message. And anybody who's listening to this, who's feeling a bit, nervous or not into things, I can't do that. But you can. It doesn't matter if you make a career out of it. That's not important. Just get out there, make your statement on the planet. And if only one person listens, that's great, isn't it? That's at least somebody listens. If nobody listens, it doesn't matter either. At least you made it. At least you made your piece of art, your piece of culture. And everybody's got a piece of art or culture inside them. One, don't expect a career. And two, don't expect it to be total genius. It doesn't matter. Just it's good for you to get it out.
Who are your influences, John? Who makes you say, yeah, this is really good music? They inspire me for me to just be a musician. Who inspires you?
Initially, it was the people in the glam periods, but they inspired us in a way that we couldn't do it ourselves. We just inspired by the magic they were making. So like Bowie, or T-Rex, or Mott the Hoople, or even the bands that weren't considered as cool, like Sweet or Mud, and all them kind of bands.
Yeah.
They seemed wonderful to us, really exciting and things. But I suppose the influence was the ideas that came out of punk, that you could make the music yourself, the culture yourself. You didn't have to wait for anybody's permission to make it either, And it didn't matter. It didn't matter who you were. It didn't matter if you're tall, small, fat, thin, black, white, girl, bloke. None of that mattered. You could all just get in a room and make music together, and it didn't really happen as much then as people wanted it to. But nowadays, you see so many bands are like that. They're just really just fantastically odd collections of people making music, and that's what's great about music in its most positive sense, that it joins really unlikely people together. And if you've got an open mind, you can wander around all these different cultures and get inspired by them. So I'm inspired by everything. In musical terms, any piece of music I listen to, I find inspirational. And it does soak into your music somehow. But then so does all culture. It could be a book. It could be a film as well. It's not necessarily a piece of music. It inspires another piece of music. It's all there to be taken. Any piece of music I've ever made is there for somebody else to take and do their own thing with as well. And people have, and it's quite a high compliment. But over the years, people have done as well, which is great,
I watched some of your videos today on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is cool. And I can see you bouncing around the stage. I see you bouncing. So you clearly know how to use the stage. You clearly know how to interact with your audience, because it was just mainly kind of you bouncing around the stage with your guitar in your hand. When was the first time you picked up a guitar and said, you know what, this is what I want to do, this is what I love? Because playing the guitar is not easy.
It was a day before the first gig, actually. I got a bass and my mate got a guitar, and the drummer, we made him borrow a drum kit. So that's how we all started. I never really learned properly. I just played it over and over till little sounds came that I liked, or riffs that I liked. But I've been doing it for 40 years. In the end, you will work something out, So, I can't really play other people's songs, but I can play my own music really well. So you become a virtuoso in your own style, whatever that is.
Yeah, that's true. No, that definitely makes sense.
And I also find music really physical, and it's got a lot of energy, and the energy does affect you as well, And I like things that got grooves in them, and I love funk music, but I wouldn't say that we played funk, but I'm interested in the repetitive groove of funk, and it's very hypnotic, and it pulls you in, and it's very primal, and it pulls you into a different space away from real life, where sometimes you can feel really heavy and clumsy. Music makes you fly like a bird, which is amazing, isn't it? Mentally, spiritually, and physically as well, and that's why it's the highest art form.
There was something else I was just reading as well, and I was like, I remember him saying that he done this. Journalist. Talk to me about you being a journalist.
Well, another thing that came out of punk was this idea of writing about music as well. There's fanzines, so you made your own fanzine, and you wrote about the music you liked and the culture that's surrounding you. And everybody, it's probably the first generation that really started. Before that, there'd been the music papers, and there still was music papers. But this is the first generation of people. Everybody started documenting what they were doing in fanzines. So many fanzines. Whereas now, the logical conclusion that it's like social networking, where everybody documents everything all the time on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, etc. This is like about probably 1 in 100 people in that music scene did it then. Now it's 1 out of 1. And so somebody brought there was a fanzine called Sniffing Gloom. Somebody brought that to school. And we thought, wow, you can actually get an old typewriter, and type everything out really badly and write. You didn't have to. I thought this is like something people, went to university for 10 years to learn how to do. I didn't realise you could just get a typewriter, write it down, and that's how I started. And I've never written in any other way. That's how I've always done it. And, you just. I don't know how you do it properly. You just do it. So it's.
I don't think there's a manual of doing it properly. I think if it comes from the heart and it's a passion, it will come out in the best form.
In music writing, you can do that, but music writing doesn't have to be formal. It can be fantastically formal and really academic, and that can be great.
That's true.
Or it could just be somebody put up a YouTube clip and going, wow, and that could be as valid as well, I think.
What's the one thing you wish you knew before you even began your career within music?
The one thing I think is, and with punk, it was very anti-business, and what you don't realise is you're going to set yourself up for 40 years of struggle. So you kind of
make it sound so bad, John.
And you're always really guilty about earning the slightest bit of money for doing stuff, thinking, I shouldn't really be earning that, and you didn't really know what the worth of it was. And I will say to this day that I think, a nurse or whatever has, in a societal term, has more of a worth than a musician has. But I'm not saying I think what we do is worthless, because it does make people feel good, empowers people, lets them escape, and it is a medicine in its own way. But if you had to have a hierarchy, and I don't like hierarchies, I was saying a nurse would deserve to earn more money in a sense. But the thing with punk was you weren't allowed to earn any money at all, and it was all counted as a sellout. And so you struggled along for years, and every now and then you bumbled into a bit of money, then it went again. And no one had any business savvy at all. And nowadays, young bands, they're really switched on with business, and And I think that's good because you're actually protecting your own music and you're earning money to facilitate that music. So you're actually in a position where you can make the music instead of worrying about what you're going to eat next week. You know, you're not living like a 16-year-old looking for money under your bed all the time, which is true of a lot of people I know. You know,
it is really true.
You get the glory moments, and now I meet them, and they're really broke. You know, and I think, God, that's really sad. And then I meet bands who are halfway up the tree of show business, and they're really broke as well. I think, God, even if you get to that level, you still no money. And it's not a moan about money. This is just something I wish I'd known a bit more about. I want to start or been a bit engaged with it, you know, to kind of know your worth and not feel bad about being paid, you know, for it. Because you can spend 2 or 3 years where you're actually paying to make the thing work.
Tell me a little bit about education. Because every time I speak about education, people go in two minds about it. So do you believe that you can have an education, then go into music? So say, for instance, if you were studying music technology, if you were studying sound engineering, then you went to go and have a career within music? Or do you believe that you can just purely have a really great talent and then just automatically go out there and make a living without having the background knowledge of...
You can, but I don't think there's any automatic making a living. I think, yeah, you could do... I mean, people I know done it without any musical education. We're underground bands, you know, we just make sort of music that's very true to ourselves that some people connect with.
But that's what I find really beautiful in a way, John, because I find that you guys put your heart in it regardless. You'll always have that passion if you're an underground artist.
Yeah,
there's not many bands that are out there today.
That's true, but I'm not snobby enough to think that a lot of pop stars are also very passionate about what they're doing. I mean, someone like Charlie XCX is a fantastic talent, and she went to a music school, but she's also really switched on to different styles of music. So she knows about her punk, and she's covered punk songs and really obscure punk songs as well. I think, wow, she really has done the research on this, and she knows about a lo-fi noise and indie, but she turns it into pop music. So she's super talented, but she went to college as well. So I'm not anti-education. I would actually advise anybody to probably go to college. You don't have to do it as they tell you how to do it.
Yeah.
Use those tools, but in your own way. And while you're at the college, learn everything. So don't just go there and learn to be a singer, but learn every musical instrument you can, how to work a music live desk, how to do mixing, you know, any aspect they're teaching in that college. If you're about 17, 18, 19, gobble it all down, because this is the time of your life when you actually do have time to do it, you know.
That's true.
The more skills you have, that means you can spend 5 years, your music's not getting anywhere, but you can mix sound in a live venue. But you have to have a job, at least have a job that's in music, mixing with people in music, finding an opportunity to get your music out to other people so you'll still be involved in the scene. So I think that's a better model, you know, nowadays. You know, I think it makes sense the more you know, but you don't have to be a slave to it as well, you know.
It's hard because when I started sound engineering, I think people just tried to use me for the fact that I was a sound engineer. Do you think people are fairly... I know we just spoke about it slightly where we were talking about being paid for what we love doing, but how do you know what you are worth when it comes to doing music? Say, for instance, if you're a sound engineer or like yourself, if you're a musician, how do you know what's the right price to charge people for you coming on a show or doing something?
As a sound engineer, you speak to the other sound engineers in that club or in that town, and find out what they're getting paid. I mean, if you're lower down, like a new sound engineer, you won't get paid as much.
That's true.
If you're a musician, it's impossible to put a worth on it. I mean, I guess one way to do it is if you're starting out, you can't recharge because you haven't got any worth at all, because you're not worth a ticket. No one's going to pay to come and see you. But if you've got a following, then you're worth a bit of money. Be realistic, you know, and then just try and stick to that price. But you may be worth 100 quid in your hometown, but the next hometown, you have to start again because no one knows who you are. So that's the money you make on one gig, you lose on the next gig. And that's kind of how you run the business. You know, it's don't waste the money, don't spend it all behind the bar, reinvest it back into your band, and work together with people as well. So if you've got another skill, like you're good at artwork, swap that skill with another band, maybe use their rehearsal room for free, or maybe that mate's got to do websites, so you do little swaps and stuff. And I mean, it's very hand to mouth, but that's the model. And I think the problem is now, and I fully support this. I mean, nearly everybody seems to be in a band, but not everybody can make a career out of it.
That's
you
true.
know, sometimes you have to you go, hands up. There aren't enough people into this for me to make any money out of it. This is purely a hobby. I come home from work, I have my tea, I do a bit of music, I put it online. 4 or 5 people really love it. They're really interested in it, and it's never going to go anywhere. But you know what? That's pretty good. You know, I'm not going to. There's no point in me going around every record label in the world thinking I'm going to get a career out of it. I'm quite happy for it to be a hobby. The other side of that coin is that if you know you got something and it's really starting to happen and people coming at it, then take it really seriously. You know, you'd only get one chance to escape with your music and that, and it could take years. There's Sleaford Mods, Idols, those guys would take 6 or 7 years before anybody took any notice of them. You know.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to know. There is no one piece of advice that ever fits.
No, that's true. That's definitely true. It's a hard one because I think everyone's got their journey and their path, and they want to go on a journey, and they say they love what they do, but it's hard to go because I've seen so many people go into record labels and publishing. And do you think that people still need record labels, or do you think that publishing is more important than a record label?
Well,
how do you feel about it, John?
I actually think they do need record labels, because I've seen panels at music conferences when people in the business, or people, I suppose people like me or whatever, who were documenters of the business, they go, why don't you just do it on your own? And I'm thinking, yeah, but you're in Hull and these kids don't know anybody in London. They don't, or Manchester, you know, the 2 main music media places. They're on the outside. True. They don't have any connection. They don't even know how you make a record. You know, I know they can look it up on the internet, but they're not connected. And a lot of it, I know it's not fair, but a lot of it's about who you know. And
that's true.
If you've got a good record label, they will know some people. They will help you get one rung further up the ladder, you know. So also, a lot of kids and bands don't have the money to go in a studio. They have no idea how to make the music. They have no idea how to get the music out there and propagate it. And they have no idea, they have no money. So they can't just go and ask the mum and dad to pay it, because mum and dad have got no money, and that's the real world. And those people will need record labels. You know, it's not hard and fast truism for everybody. You know, it's definitely. I mean, yeah, you could send an MP3 to Stephen Mack at random, and he may pick it up. And credit to Steve, he does try to do that. But the amount of stuff he gets sent, you probably need a radio plugger to push it in front of him a bit, and it still works for pluggers. You know, it's broken down a lot over the years, and it's changed a bit, but it's still very much the people who've got record labels who know how to hustle, track, or like to get heard. And there's no point in saying that's not fair, because music is not fair. Music is not like being in the civil service. You join, you work hard for 3 years, get a promotion. Music doesn't work like that. You may spend 10 years being brilliant and no one ever knows you existed.
That's true.
Or then you put out a track and everyone really likes it, and the next one no one cares about. I mean, it's really bumpy. You know, it's up and down. You know, you could be flavour of the month in 1 month, and the next month you're in the dustbin, and that's the way it is. You can't make it into a normal job. It's not a normal job.
Yeah, you made me just thinking about that. That is true. They say you're as good as your last song, basically, which is quite true.
Yeah, because the other thing about music is it's not necessarily always the music. I mean, it could be the way you present the music, or what you look like, or what you connect with,
true.
or what you're communicating. You may be communicating the feeling that lots of people really like with a piece of music they don't like, but they like the feeling that you're communicating. It's quite an intangible science, really. That's what's quite fascinating about it, really.
Do you think it's fair that people judge you on the way you look rather than the music that you're bringing across?
It depends what they're judging in the way you look. So if they think you have to be really good looking to have a valid piece of music, well, it's a bit naff. But then it's human nature as well, isn't it? So it's all right for everyone to sit there and say, you know, look at all those blokes leaning over that woman, and then all the women go, whoa, look, there's Brad Pitt. You know, so it's everyone can sit there in massive denial that they don't. No, just, you know, I have no interest in looking at somebody who's aesthetically pleasing to look at or whatever. You know, it doesn't affect any decision I ever make in my life. But the human nature is a bit weird, a bit more fundamental than that. I mean, obviously it's better if you could judge a piece of music on just being a piece of music. but it is a 360, isn't it? And it doesn't have to necessarily be something. What's great about music, it doesn't have to be conventionally attractive, though, to be attractive. And that's something,
That's true.
It's a great life lesson you can get from music. Johnny Rotten wasn't conventionally attractive, but he had an amazing charisma that pulled people into him in the punk days, which is hard to see now, but at that time, it was very compelling, So that's what it doesn't have to be like a load of models making records, which is a lot what pop music is in a sense. But it can be the opposite of that as well. People can make it because they just don't fit. And that can be very intriguing and it can be quite fascinating. Or they have an innate charisma or the genuine X Factor, not the dodgy series, that people are just drawn towards because they have like a really fascinating energy about them. And
that's true.
So when you say, is it fair? Well, I kind of already said, music isn't fair. It's you could be incredibly talented, and somebody does a mediocre version of your idea, will end up being more successful. It's just the way music works. Timing is important as well. It's so many sort of odd factors that all go into it.
What's the one thing you've always wanted to do as a child, but you never got to do, John?
I think I've done most things I wanted to do.
I like that.
I always wanted to do music and stuff. Now it's actually interesting because I'm not really led a very conventional life. And now I'm nearly 60. I should be sort of putting my feet up.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm 59 now. So
you don't look it.
Yeah. So on one level, I sort of run out of time. And there's always that thing nagging at you that time's getting tight. But there's also this thing that because of the pandemic, I couldn't really do the band that much. So I started doing loads of other things. And then because I used the empowerment of punk and my belief and ideas, and I started getting in touch with people saying, why don't you've got like a great facility there and loads of money. Why don't we do this thing? I've got a great idea. And quite a lot of people come back and go, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, why not?
So I've kind of applied all that creativity and that daredevil thing that comes as well. You have no shame in what you ask people. Go on, let's do it. Go on. You can do it. Give me loads of money. I'll get that done. And I'm having good ideas. And that empowerment, like I say, from punk, where you have that self-belief that you can actually make it happen. And it actually works. So I've just been applying that for the last few months. And quite a few things. So not one of them's happened yet, but quite a few were very close, So that's been quite interesting as well. So it's like going into another chapter of your life about 20 years after you should have done. but oddly, it kind of fits because it's such an unconventional life curve. That why not? Why not? Why shouldn't you have just this really weird, massively successful last chapter that was too late?
It's not that it's too late, John. Come on.
No, I was kind of joking about that,
I know.
Normally by now I'll be doing the box sets and I've done everything. Let's go and get the pension or whatever. But it actually feels like a new beginning. Like loads of really cool, interesting things going on.
Oh, when was the last time you actually did try something new?
All the time, like musically, you're always trying. I'm always interested in new experiences and doing different things. There is part of me that if I wasn't careful, would just probably plod along doing the same thing because it feels safer. But then that when I was a kid, I challenged that by getting into punk. So over my life, I've taken quite curveball decisions where you just suddenly do something completely different. And even though I'm not a massive believer in astrology, I'm a Taurus, and we are the ultimate going in one long, plodding along. So you have to be very aware of that. Sometimes you have to chuck a grenade into the room, just do something completely different.
Yeah.
And that's kind of fed into the thinking of the last few months, because really the whole world kind of stopped anyway, didn't it? So
that's true.
You think, do I want to spend the next 15 years doing exactly the same thing, or do I want to do something utterly completely different? And that was interesting as well,
What have you overcome in your life that has made you change the way you feel and the way you think and the way you interact with people? Has there been anything that has happened in your life that has changed your whole process of how you do things?
Well, I think like a lot of English people, probably growing my generation, I'd say about 90% of people are probably quite shy, really, and punk was great because it got you out of that. It empowered you where it gave you self-belief you didn't have. And when you grew up in the North, you were always told that you weren't as good as other people, and oddly, punk actually told us that we were as good as people not everyone in London, of course, but I mean the elite that run things, they when they talk about Northerners, they talk about us like we're all a bit simple and stupid and all that, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and the punk thing was a tear in that fabric. You go, no, I could do that as well, and that was important to think. And I think when I was younger, when my granddad died, because it's the first time that somebody died that was close to me, and I think that made me realise that life is not finite. There is an end. You're not going to be in this same place all the time, so you may as well take a few risks, and do things that are different. Otherwise, you will be in a very mediocre place forever, and that's okay. For some people, that's a brilliant life. And I'm not critiquing other people who do that. If you're very comfortable in a job and you're happy in your life, that's a brilliant thing. I'm just talking about it for myself, really. And I think to remain creative, you have to take chances, really.
That's true. That definitely makes sense to me. What are you most proud of that you stand for, John?
Being open-minded, free thinker, progressive, embracing, being pro-people, and a listener, which sounds odd in this conversation because I've just been talking because I'm the interviewee. But when I interview people, I actually listen to what they say, and I'm fascinated by it. So that's me. I'm proud of that. I think that's something I like being able to do. And it doesn't matter whether it's somebody who's really well known or whatever, and you do an interview with them. It could be somebody you meet at random on a train as well. I think people are eternally fascinated.
I think some of those are the
loving
best
animals
things.
And nature and the universe, and also appreciating its dark side as well. It's the beauty and violence of nature. It's incredible watching a butterfly fly, going to a flower. But the butterfly, if it sees another butterfly, is thinking, if I get the chance, I'll kill that other butterfly. and that, the bird in the garden, like a thrush, you think that's beautiful plumage, but it'll just go and eat the butterfly. So nature's in this really bizarre balance between awe-inspiring beauty, but completely dangerous as well. And I find that fascinating, actually.
How do you feel being on the other side and being interviewed rather than you being the person who interviews?
I take it as a really high compliment that anybody's interested in what you got to talk about and things, and it's, I like both aspects of it, really. I think it's a bit like doing when I do talks on stage. It's always free form. I never have a plan. I don't use notes or anything. And I like, in a weird way, I actually like listening to what I'm saying. So
no, it's fine. It makes sense.
Talking, you sort of get slightly detached when you're on a stage talking, and you're thinking, oh, yeah, that's interesting. I never thought of that. And then you start going off on your own tangents and following your own tangents. It's almost like you're interviewing yourself, which sounds slightly schizophrenic, but it's the flight of fantasy and the way the conversation goes. It does actually fascinate me in an odd kind of way.
Well, you are unique. I must say that.
Everybody's unique, though. Everybody's unique in a complete way.
No, that's true. But there are always some people that stand out a little bit more than everyone else. It's not that they mean to. It's not that they're any better. But there are some people in the world that uniquely stand out a little bit more than everyone else. I don't know if you've seen it, John, or...
No, because to me, this is just my life. Really. It just feels completely normal. I mean... people say, some people, they just laugh at you. And I go, that's fantastic. Making them, they're feeling really happy. If they think I'm funny or something, or if my hair looks ridiculous on somebody my age, that's totally cool. If I make them smile and give them some positive energy, isn't that a good thing?
It is.
Yeah. I try not to fill the world full of bad shit, and I mean, sometimes you get involved in arguments. When people argue on the internet, I try and get really level-headed on it, and the only people I ever bar off my social networking are people who are rude. I could tolerate different political opinions, even if they're the opposite of mine, as long as they're not rude about people, as long as they admit a confusion about an idea, and I'll say, okay, I'll let that one go. But if you start being rude, then you're off. But because I think the trouble, the world we're in now, is that people don't listen to what the people say, and people just shout in each other's faces, and everything's getting really polarized. And I'm obviously on one side of the equation, But you have to listen to the other side, whether you agree with them or not, because you have to understand why they think that. Otherwise, nothing's ever going to change. It's like Brexit, or it's like America now, with the militiamen shooting Black Lives Matter people and in the streets of Kenosha. It's like, well, God, how did we get to this point? It's tilting into a civil war.
Yeah,
I
slowly.
know there's going to be extremes on both sides who never listen to each other, but the people in the middle can listen to each other and will listen to each other and will try and find solutions to problems, because the problems are genuine, in America and in the UK, so minorities aren't represented properly, and that has to change. And most people know that, and most people aren't in a position of power to make that change, but they can make it in their daily lives, and they are trying to, and people will try to. So even Middle England, that's more conservative, most of those people genuinely think, what can I actually do to make it better? They may get annoyed about Land of Hope and Glory not being sung at the proms, but in their day-to-day life, they'll go, I'm just going to try and be a bit more polite to the Indian bloke who owns a shop down the road, which is enough, really, because it's a tiny little change, but those little changes make a difference, And
oh yeah,
I'm optimistic about the human race. I think there's more good people than bad people, but you don't hear the voices, do you? I'm not saying I agree with those people politically, but I know in their hearts they're probably good people. They're politically they're misrepresented, but their souls are good, aren't they? And I think in the end, though, all you ever see is people shouting at each other on the internet, and it's become really tedious. It's not providing any solutions at all. And I'm into solutions to problems. I'm not into arguing eternally. Let's get a solution to this. And part of the solution is being able to engage and embrace the other side. It's like a Buddhist meditation, isn't it? There's two meditations that are really heavy to do. One is you meditate on death, so you embrace death, so you can embrace life and feel life even more because you've embraced death. And the other one is to meditate on the person you hate the most and try and find positive values in them. God, it's tough. But it's a good discipline, isn't it? To actually.
It sounds like you've done it a few times.
I can't do it. I find it difficult. I mean, I'm not a superhero, but I like the philosophy of it. I think it's a really good philosophy. I think if everybody did it would make the world a much better place, really. So even the person you really can't stand, there's some, there's going to be a couple of facets to their personality which are going to be okay. They're going to have uncertainties. They're going to have fears. But their fears just come out in very negative ways, which don't make the world better. Maybe if you could speak to them and find ways of dealing with that, and you'd learn something back from yourself, because nobody's perfect. You're trying to make the world better, but you're as selfish as everybody else is. It's just human condition, isn't it? We're all trying to survive, aren't we? On a crazy little planet and a crazy little blue dot in the middle of nowhere.
What's the best advice you've ever received from somebody?
I've received so much advice over the years. I mean, I think one of the things you're always learning. I think you never know everything, and I think I like the idea. The true wisdom is knowing what you don't know. I think that's such an important thing to know that. And I think there's so many different little bits of advice you get over the years. But I think even the smallest piece of advice can be good, can't it? Can be.
That's true.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of something because people don't often give me advice. I don't know why. I think I haven't got a clue what I'm doing.
Yes, you do. Stop it. Well, what would you do? I'm the ultimate
amateur. That's what's really interesting, I guess. In the end, I'm an example of somebody that gets an idea and just, even if they don't know what they're doing, they somehow make it work. So, but even if I have to pull somebody in to help me on that bit, then I'll do that. So. If I want a song sung by a choir, I'll go and get a choir. I can hear the choir in my head. I can't sing choir parts, but I sing the choir bits.
But you know how you want it.
And they turn them into choir parts, and they sing my tunes. And I had to go to Estonia to do it, to a 40-piece Estonian choir, and they're amazing, their choirs.
Wow.
But punk rock taught me, don't feel bad. You're in the room, and even if you can't sing properly, or I'm not a proper singer, I can still communicate the melody to these people who speak a different language. And they did the parts as I wanted me to do them, And I think that was important. I think empowerment's important, and believing you could do things. And don't worry about falling flat on your face. Who cares? When you're in the old people's home and you're at the end of your life, you'd be damn glad you actually dared to do it when you could still get out of a chair, that you actually went and did that thing, you know.
That's true. That's really, really true. What would you do if nobody was judging you? What would you do differently, I should say, if nobody was judging you?
Nothing really, because I don't feel that inhibited, you know. I just do things that...
You seem pretty free.
Yeah, free, but not. But like what I was talking about earlier, you still have to think in terms of community, don't you? So
yeah, no, that's true.
I think we're individuals in a community, but so there is such a thing as society. Margaret Thatcher was completely wrong. You have to respect what everyone else does. And I thought in the early days of the pandemic, when people talked about respecting the people who stack shelves, because they suddenly realised if no one's stacking the shelves, we're all going to starve to death. It was an important lesson, really, wasn't it? Because don't sneer at people whose jobs to you personally don't seem as cool as your job or something. I used to hate it in the punk days when people did songs about people having shit jobs. I thought, well, you know, not everybody can get away being in a group.
Exactly.
It's like you without bees. You know, the world, every life form's planet will die. So the humble bumblebee it holds us all together, and that's an important lesson in the human race, isn't it? You know, it's without you take anybody out of the society, then it all starts to fall down. You know.
No, that's definitely true. I don't know why they do that, but I guess it's
human nature, and we're all scrambling over each other to survive, aren't we? And that's part of it, and you have to understand that that's natural. You know, it's an inner instinct. You know, if the house caught fire, everybody rushes, or if a boat's sinking, everybody's rushing to get into the lifeboats. And
that's true.
You know, and some people, you know, of course, some people say after you, like they did on the Titanic, but it's not generally what really happens. And you have to realise that everyone's got that kind of weakness, that self-preservation inside them. But on the other hand, you have to try and find some way of dealing with that. That maybe when you get on the lifeboat, you take as many people with you as you possibly can without sinking the lifeboat.
No, we don't want to. We don't want to do that.
I mean, hopefully, you never have to make that choice, innit?
No, that's true. No, that definitely makes sense to me. So, when was the last time you felt totally at peace, John?
I don't often feel at peace, so it's very difficult to feel at peace, isn't it? Because I did do meditation for a year, and it was quite interesting because you don't realise the monkey mind, which is what they call it. It's like a pack of things all chattering away in your mind, and you have to let each one go, but they just keep coming back. Because another one, I think, oh my God, I didn't even hear that one. It's like, you know, you're in the countryside and you listen to total silence, and it's not silence because you can hear something in the next field, and the next field, and about 2 miles away you can hear an owl hooting.
Yeah.
There is no total peace, is there, and things, is there? Yeah. I guess sometimes when you play music and everything's locking into a place, that could be a feeling of the communal mind, like the Doors talked about. It's a higher feeling, you know, when instinctively everybody knows where everyone else is going in the music, and the band just moves around with each other. That's quite an amazing feeling, that when it's not even being communicated, you're all just playing together. It's a very deep art thing. Yeah.
If there was one song in the world that you could choose to represent you as a person, so this one song would kind of be like the soundtrack of your life, but it's only one song. What song would you choose?
I find it impossible to choose one song because
I knew he was going to say that.
It's true, and I ask people all the time for their top tens to the website and things. But I'm always thinking, I'm glad no one's asking me, because I've listened to more than 50 songs a day of completely different types of music, and I love them all. So I guess there's some songs which have such an eternal mystery that at some point I always go back to them. So, like Strawberry Fields by the Beatles, which is such a magical, very dark song. Joy Division as well, because Joy Division always sound like the future. I mean, I like songs that have a mystery to them. You know, you can listen to them a million times and you still don't quite know where it's going or what it sounds like, or you hear a new texture or a shape in it. And it's, to me, that's really, that could be really fascinating, you know. But then you know, I can hear a piece of music right now I never heard before, and I'm pulled into that. So it's I think what a lot of people really into music really fear is being judged on one piece of music they chose once as the one piece of music they really liked, because it's never representative, because your musical taste has such fluidity to it.
That's true,
I don't have records in order. I don't have playlists, and I don't just listen to one thing over and over. It does move about a lot.
I'm just trying to think for a second, because you made me think about it. No, it's good. It's good because sometimes when you're in a place where you're trying to think of, songs and what song you would like. I've never had anybody ask me what song I like, and I think I would find it really hard. I listen to a lot of jazz a lot of the time.
The only thing you can ever say is right now, at this very minute, I've been listening to da-da-da, so it's...
No, that's true, because at the moment for me it's jazz. I love jazz.
Yeah, I mean, I love... jazz is really hip again, which is amazing, because he always talked about jazz was an old form of music and it would never come back around, but now it's been reinvented by loads of really great players, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has, and people are manipulating jazz and coming back with really old school and bringing back the old stuff and using it in different ways. So it's really nice when someone pulls something from the past but makes it really good and sound really good.
Completely reinterprets it. It makes it modern, I mean, music's never static, and it's a shame when things do sometimes. I like Shabaka, he's amazing, and he's not jazz, because he was also classical, because he played in an orchestra, and he's got such an imagination and a mindset, and his music, all the projects he does are really fascinating, aren't they? So
yeah,
and he's an example of that modern jazz scene that's been really rising up and things.
Define what success means to you.
Well, for a long time it was survival, really, but I think it was, to me, it's if you get an idea and you actually execute the idea, no matter how difficult it was, somehow you get to that point at the end where you've really made the idea work.
I like that. I definitely like that. That's a good one, because people are usually defining loads of people have been saying happiness is success to them, and I don't know if that's something that you feel would resonate with you as a person. Happiness for success.
It's so fleeting, though. It's a weird thing to aim for, isn't it? Because there is no ultimate blissful state unless you go really deeply, I guess, into like Eastern mysticism or something. What's happiness? Is it laughing at comedy for hours on end, or is it just a thing where you just float? So it becomes, when you start thinking about it, it's so indefinable. It actually just screws your head up even more, doesn't it?
Oh, the way you said that. What advice would you give to I know you've given so much advice today, which I'm so humbled that you have done, John. But what advice would you give to someone who's feeling like they're in a dark place or feeling like they can't get out from where they are because they love music, they do music every day? Obviously, the pandemic that we're in is obviously, yes, it's making people more creative, but it's also making people unable to show their talent in some aspects of things. We've got social media and stuff, which is brilliant, but live performance is such a beautiful thing to be able to do, and we're not able to do it as much as we normally do. What would you say to people to help give them that support and that positivity to keep on going with what they love doing?
I think it's really hard not to sound really glib in it, but I think if you're in a dark place, talk to somebody, and ring somebody up, even if you don't really. I mean, I know some people could be really, really cut off and on their own, and that's difficult because I'm not a social worker, so I can't really get into it that far. But this is difficult for northern males, but just if you could talk to other people. Most people will listen to you, even your mates who you go to the pub and take the piss with. They may seem like the most unlikely people to offer you support, but they probably would,
That's true.
Or at least know somebody who will be able to listen to you and stuff, If you also, the thing to remember is often it will go round to the other side. Just hang on, which does sound very glib, but people will tell you that, when they go into the depths, you can come back out. You'll come back around to the other side and things. So I mean, it is basic, isn't it? I mean, it's so simple. I think people maybe overthink it, thinking there's a wonder cure, but sometimes just spilling it all out can help, or just knowing that somebody's there, or even just get out the flat and walk down the street, because the lockdown we've had is not as bad as other places like China. We can still go out.
Yeah.
You can walk down the street and there's other human beings there, and humans need humans, don't they? Even if they're just walking past them.
That's natural.
Just say hello to people who walk down the street. It looks a bit crazy.
I do.
Most people let on back again, and it's people go, well, what relief they said hello. Yeah.
We all need it sometimes. What are your plans for the future for you? What do you think your future will hold for you?
I have no idea about the future. I'm just hopefully some of these projects work, and if they don't, I'll just think of other ideas and just start doing those instead. When I've got tangible things on, I've got 2 books to come out, 4 or 5, a film project that may come off, and some other like a festival idea that might work. I mean, that's how it works in freelance world. It's just ideas. You set them all up and hope they stick and hope they work. And they could be really strong ideas, but it doesn't necessarily always mean they're going to work. But you have to try and make them work. And that's been since I was 16. It's been like that. Doing the band was like that. Everything was like that. It was always trying to make things happen.
Yeah, most definitely. What's your social media, John? Where can people find you if they would like to get in touch with you? Or just like to have a conversation like I did with you, because you've been so humble to come on the Us People podcast. So where can people find you if they would like to get in touch with you?
Well, they can find me on Instagram, JOHNROBB77. Twitter's the same as well, John Robb 77. And then just look me up on Facebook. I've got about a few different accounts, but I'm communicating all of them, so people can find me, yeah.
That's perfect. John, I want to thank you so much for coming on the Us People podcast.
No, thanks for asking me, yeah.
You've been such a positive guest as well. Everything that came from you was true, honest, and real, and you were really humble about it as well. So I don't get that often, so I want to thank you for that.
No, thanks for asking. Yeah.
No, definitely. Perfect. Guys, I want to thank you so much for listening to the Us People podcast. Please remember you can subscribe to Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and any other platform that you prefer listening to. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can also donate to the Us People podcast by simply going to the Savia Rocks website or typing in paypal.me/Us People podcast. Thank you for listening. Stay happy, stay positive. And as always, please continue to be kind to one another.
Peace of mind, gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. Peace of mind, gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. Peace of mind, gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. Peace of mind, peace of mind.
People say that having a peace of mind is trying to find a consistency of calmness within ourselves, to crave for a clarity that drives us through our emotional journey of life, to never let a person's judgment manifest into a fear inside of us, learning to believe in our ability to shine through the darkest moments and tunnels when we cannot see the light. Patience being our light for forgiveness and strength, to believe in our destiny. If you want real peace of mind, one needs to stop fighting their inner thoughts and embrace them with love, because love is the most amazing and beautiful strength that we have to conquer our peace of mind. Make your thoughts impact a nation by keeping them true and honest, especially to yourself. But make your peace of mind protect you when you don't have strength to embrace anything else. Find your peace of mind by listening to your heart.
It doesn't have to be like a load of models making records, which a lot more pop music is in a sense. But it can be the opposite of that as well. People can make it because they just don't fit. And that can be very intriguing, and it can be quite fascinating. Or they have an innate charisma or the genuine X Factor, not the dodgy series, that people are just drawn towards because they have like a really fascinating energy about them. And that, so when you say, is it fair? Well, I kind of already said music isn't fair, it's you know, you could be incredibly talented and somebody does a mediocre version of your idea will end up being more successful. It's just the way music works. Timing is important as well. You know, it's so many sort of odd factors that all go into it.